So I was watching some stuff on the Red Table Talk or whatever, and they were basically saying stuff about, Bobby Christina's father, and he confirms that Nick killed them, whatever you say. You know what I'm saying? How I look at it, I think he did it, of course, probably. I mean, he was the only one around them the longest. But if, you know what I'm saying, if we really want to tell the truth, we have to go back to the original. You see what I'm saying? Yes, we can say all day long that he did it, because I believe he did. I mean, he was around them the longest. I mean, he was let into the house. He was doing all this extra stuff, allegedly. And to be honest with you, I think it was more he did something to Bobby Christina. I'm sorry, I got pimples. He did something more to Bobby Christina than I think Whitney, because if he did something to Whitney, it would have showed up in the autopsy report. See, here's the thing. Folks don't understand medical like we understand medical. If somebody tells you, hold on, go sit in that corner like I told you to and stop all that daggone jumping. Sit down. My dog's in the background. Here's the thing. We can believe all day long that it was him. And I believe it because, for one, he was around them. But the way he died, why all of a sudden would he drug overdose if he died? Probably the same way his friend died. You see what I'm saying? It's one thing. See, when you watch enough criminal shows, you'll see, especially on, what is it called? The old one was like HL something, HLS or something, or HSL or whatever it was called. But it used to be like a Criminal Mind. It was like Criminal Mind back in the day, before Criminal Mind and CSI was. It was almost like daytime, not, like it was almost like File X. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day. So it was like the stuff that you would do, stuff that you would watch about people getting hurt and harassed and, double hurtings, I'll have to say. Like back in the 70s, like I think it was like 78 to like 1999. So it was like killings that happened around that time and stuff that you would see. And you would see the forensic science and stuff like that. But the thing about it is that people don't understand. Yes, you can say all day long that Nick did this and Nick did that. Here is what you need to understand. When it comes down to the black community, and I'm not trying to pull the race card every single time, but when it comes down to the black community, you got to really understand what folks do to cover their tracks. It's just like this. Let's use George Floyd as an example. Remember how they had a trial, right? They had a trial about his situation, and they were basically trying to figure out why he died so quickly. And now all of a sudden they're trying to say it was the cashier's fault because he was the one that said it was a counterfeit money. And that's the reason why. First of all, we need to really be honest and stop the lies. Whether money is counterfeit or not is not have anything to do with somebody dying. If the money was counterfeit, you should have just arrested him like any other person. Did nobody tell him to put his knee in somebody's neck? That's disrespectful. Why would you do that? There's no reason to put that amount of force. I get if somebody was resisting arrest and was trying to bite you. I get that. But you still wouldn't put your knee in his neck. You just got hatred in your heart. It's the same situation with this Whitney Houston and Bobby Christina. Everybody is trying to cover their tracks because they don't want to get caught. First of all, if Nick was the person, why all of a sudden is he's spazzing out and all this other stuff? If he really did do it, who helped him? Because he wasn't the only person by himself. If he did all these things, he would have to come up with it himself. Since he's been, because my thing about it is, here's how I look at it. Michael was the one that said that he put his sister on to drugs. So if Nick was around them around that time that he said that, first of all, he's 30. He probably wasn't even born when that stuff was going on. Second of all, he was Bobby Christina's friend. Listen, every daughter has had that one bad friend that your parents just be like, listen, I know you like that friend, but I wouldn't suggest you hanging around them anymore. That is that kind of situation. To be honest with you, I think he was more of both of a lover. And this is why I say that this is basically opinion. This is all alleged. I believe he was messing with both of them because come on, boys get, not all boys, but when you living with a mother and a daughter, come on, you've watched the adult movies. The mom starts feeling a certain type of way because the daughter's getting all kind of love. Let's be honest. So then he starts screwing with her, the mom. Daughter finds out, then it's a situation where they're fighting because I don't believe, because there was a time where Whitney even said herself she couldn't control her daughter because she warned her about the same stuff that she used to do. Here's the thing, when you feel like your mom's been messing with your boyfriend, allegedly that's supposed to be a godson or whatever, if he is a godson, that's sick. But I don't believe he was a godson. I think they just did that because they didn't want everybody in their business. My thing is, it doesn't really matter. The situation is this. I don't know much about parenting, but I do know a little bit of something. If you have a kid with somebody, I have a hard time believing that you can't go see them. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, you've been on drugs and stuff like that, unless you like sexually assaulted them. That's the only way I can see you can't be around them or something like that. Or if the state. But if a family on her side is saying that you can't be around them, talking about my hands were tied, I would believe her father a lot better if she didn't basically, because here's the thing about it. They want to sit there and talk about there was this and that and this stuff, but they forgot Houston on her own. She called him. And then her so-called cousin talking about Uncle Bobby wants to see you. But my thing about it is, why does she have to come to him? That's your daughter. Whether you have a job or not, your kids come first. And that's part of the problem. And that's why I'm saying, like, I wish I would believe him, but I don't really believe that bull that he's trying to say. I believe it's a story just so nobody goes to jail. That is the truth. Because when you sit and think about it, none of it makes sense. First of all, let's talk about Whitney Houston's death. I have to sit there and get deep into it because I've been watching it ever since I was a kid. She passed away when I was a freshman in high school. And I was mad. You want to know why I was mad? Because I always wanted to meet her. It was on my bucket list. It was like her and Oprah and a few other people. So to find out that she passed away really pissed me off. And I'm going to be honest about it because I was just like, why? What happened? And the stories just didn't make sense. So let me explain what really happened. Because everybody keeps saying, oh, Nick did this, Nick did that. I believe he did, but I don't believe he was the only one involved. Because first of all, the boy sounds retarded. Let's be honest. No disrespect. I'm not calling nobody the R word, meaning that they're slow, but I'm just saying, like, certain things just don't make sense. That's what I mean when I say the R word. I'm saying, what? Like, stuff just didn't fly. Like, it's not like he's mentally, it's just certain things just didn't make sense why he was just acting this way, and he's being weird. So it was just like certain things just was a little off. First of all, he talks like a 15-year-old, and he was way older than her. She was 19, he was 23. Let's be honest about the situation. The Houston's on Her Own was aired right after Whitney Houston died, about 3 months later. So they're still like dealing with it. It hadn't even been a month since she died, and they already got cameras in her face. First of all, but everybody want to say it's Nick. Okay, if Nick was that bad, she wouldn't have been in the house with him. And my thing about it, if Nick was so horrible, like they say that she was so horrible, how come when there was a call, because Dateline News had a thing on there, when there was a call and she locked herself in the closet and she called her best friend, she called her cousin, and her cousin left her. If this guy is such a bad person, why would you let your daughter, your cousin, who feels like she's unsafe, around him? So what makes you think that I'm going to believe that this so-called person X them? I mean, I'm just saying, if he did, he did. But I'm just saying, I don't believe that BS. Because here's the thing. The autopsy for Whitney Houston basically said nobody, because he claimed that he did CPR. Nobody did CPR. That is what the autopsy report says. Nobody was in there. They said, here's what the story was. Everything was fine. She was in disarray. She was drinking. Here's the thing. If only cocaine was in her system and there wasn't even enough water for her to drown, it doesn't make sense. Things don't make any sense. First of all, they were saying Ray J did this and that and the third, but Ray J wasn't in there. I mean, he was friends with her, but he wasn't there of the time she passed away. That was Nick and all them. Okay, maybe so. Okay, maybe so. But here's the problem. If Nick did do it, why was the bathtub cleaned up? That's all I'm saying, because if it's a one-man team, you don't do everything by yourself, because you can't tell me within 30 minutes of everybody coming back that you can keep a room clean that fast. Listen, I know boys just like you know boys. Nobody gets a room that clean without help, first of all, if he did do it. Because here's what the story was. And this is why I say it's the family, because if it was really Nick, they would have got rid of him, first of all. They would have been outraged, second of all. He would have been in jail way sooner than that. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said this is, like I said, this is all alleged, but some of this stuff don't make sense. Everybody knows if your heart stops and somebody is not breathing, you have to do CPR, and you keep it in the rhythm. You know that song, Staying Alive. You keep it in intervals, and you keep going until you can get that rhythm through the heart, right? So when that heart starts pumping, oxygen is going all the way to the brain, and it's going. In our body, it's like you got veins and you got arteries, so you need the oxygen. So you got to keep that heartbeat. Never should you stop CPR. First of all, you have to keep the rhythm, because first of all, you want that person to live, right? Let's say it one more time. Okay, she was supposed to be with Pat. Everybody wants to talk about Nick. I'm talking about the family. Nick is not off the hook either, because he did some sketchy stuff too. But my thing is, if it was all Nick, the family would have been outraged. He would have been in jail a long time ago, especially if they knew that he did that to Whitney. They would have got Bobby Christina out of the situation. That's what I'm saying. There's levels to the foolishness. Let's get even closer. So basically, it also says that there was gashes to her nose, chest, about 10, scars and everything else. First of all, the last night before, there was blood coming from her leg. Where else? Nobody just takes a picture of that. You must have been in a struggle, or what must have cut you. Nobody just starts bleeding unless, and at that time, I mean, I don't know how old she was, and you know what I'm saying? You can start your period all day long, but I'm just saying, like, when we start our period, it doesn't spot like that unless you're getting older or unless you know you're pregnant. And at that time, she was like 40, so of course not. She was getting probably close to menopause. If anything, because if she died at 48, she was getting close to menopause. It's like there's no possible way that even a period, unless her body, everybody's body is different, but most women in their late 40s, early 50s, they're about to start menopause. So they don't really have a period like that. And besides, if it did come from that area, it would have fell as a stream, but it stopped by her kneecap to her calf. Okay, the reason why I'm saying I know this is because I've been watching almost everybody's story to piece it together. The thing that doesn't make sense is that when they did the thing, they said that they did a documentary like a year after Whitney died, and they said that there was a 30-minute difference between everybody. She called her mom, she talked to her mom and said everything. Pat did not listen to her calls. I find it unfortunate, how all of a sudden you don't want to accept her calls. But she was supposed to be presenting and doing this stuff according to your so-called list. She was supposed to be ready for Clive Davis's party and doing what she had to do for these Henson P. Johnson candles that you wanted her to do, basically. If she was supposed to be with you, how come you left? Here's another clue. Everybody knows that when you have a celebrity, the entourage, it's important to have them on the same floor. That particular day, they were on the 3rd floor. She was on the 4th floor. I don't find that a convenience. I don't find that a coincidence. I don't find any of that. Secondly, you look at the situation and you look more into it, and you see, basically, everybody didn't call from her. Kim Burrell, even on things said, I thought I was going to call her and I missed her. She called. If she is calling everybody, there is a reason. Nobody just starts calling everybody unless there's an issue. Anybody in America that knows if somebody is automatically calling you out of nowhere, it's an emergency. If somebody is feeling threatened, the first thing they do is call 911. If that doesn't work, they call a family member or a friend. She called at least 10 different people and they did not respond. Come on now, you really want me to believe that only Nick Gordon was a part of this? You gotta be dumber than a box of rocks if you think I believe he was the only one involved. I believe he was the one that was supposed to do it. And you'll understand what I'm saying after that. Let's also talk about this. There was a 30-minute interval where they basically said, this is what Mary said. Mary was the so-called assistant. From what I was told, I didn't know that was her assistant. I thought it was just Pat was her assistant, but not her manager, according to Leola Brown. Now, Leola Brown is Whitney Houston's her sister-in-law, because at the time they were married, she was married to Bobby. So here's the situation. Here is the situation, though. So there was a 30-minute interval, right? Mary said in the documentary that she left, filled the bathtub up, and put her in the bathtub to comb her hair. So she did that, and Whitney, she claimed, said she wanted some cupcakes from this area. So she went to the store to buy some cupcakes, right? Follow where I'm going. The autopsy said her and Pat went to Neiman Marcus. Now, my situation is, I thought Neiman Marcus was like a place, like a boutique. I didn't know they make cupcakes. Because anybody else in my feeling would not lie about something like that. The water was at boiling point. So when she submerged, it was only 93 degrees. First of all, nobody's going to get in no hot water. I don't care how it is. Nobody's going to get in hot water unless you're like me. I have to. It's like this. People who get in tubs of ice and hot water, if you're trying to get rid of a muscle injury or deal with a muscle injury, you get in a tub full of ice. That's what basketball, all type of players out there get involved in, and people that are trying to get into the fitness competition where they're showing their muscles and stuff like that, like body lifting and bodybuilding situations, stuff like that. Excuse me. My sinuses. Here's another situation. My voice gets really deep when I don't feel good, but here's another situation. So basically, you also got to look at the fact that Whitney Houston was connected to a lot of multi-people that made money. First of all, her mother was a gospel singer with the group called the Drinkards. And her cousin was Dee Dee Warwick, which was an already famous R&B singer from back in the day, like the early 70s to the late 90s, if you know what I mean. So, and to now. So, and then you had her, basically her cousin, or unless it was her godmother, basically her godmother, I think, I'm not sure, I could be wrong, Aretha Franklin. All of those women were in the industry. Her best friends, the Winans, the Cece was her best friend. And then you gotta look at Kim Burrell was also her best friend. Kim Burrell, the reason why I say a suspect is because she was the one that was the last person to sing with her and do a tribute. And you all know what that means. Then you have Kelly Price. Kelly Price did a song with her and Faith Evans called Heartbreak Hotel. She was the last person to see her. Then after she died, her and Faith were about to do this R&B album to honor her or something like that, or they did a thing to honor her. Kiki Wyatt did her song to honor her. You got to look at all of the facts. Then you look at this. Lady Gaga was wearing a thing that was wearing all black and had a veil around her face. Usually people that do that stuff, they're going to a funeral. Why did she wear that a year before Whitney passed away? Who else was her manager? Vincent D. Herbert, who was married to Vincent D. Herbert. And then all of a sudden her career, his wife's career, boom. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, all of this is alleged, but you have to look at all of it. You can't just look at parts of it and just believe, oh, Nick did this. Okay, yes, he probably did do it, and I believe he did it, but there's levels to the stuff. People get told, just like when Carrie Hilton said somebody told her to go against Beyonce. It's just like with this situation. Somebody told Nick Gordon to do that because there's so many people involved. Then you got to look at this. The guy named Raffles. Raffles was around the entourage that was holding Nick Gordon when everybody kept saying Nick, Nick, Nick. That was Raffles. The same Raffles that was with Michael Jackson before he passed away. There's more to the story. Then you look at the fact that why would you lie about the water being on? First of all, she had a wig on. You don't need to comb a wig unless you have it on a mannequin and stuff like that. You don't have to unless you do. She didn't look like the kind of person that would just start combing her wig. I'm just saying she had a hairstylist. Then on top of that, the hairstylist was supposed to be in her room about 30 minutes afterwards. And all of a sudden, Pat tells her not to go up there. Pat was also the one that told Oprah that her brother, was trying to save her life. The autopsy said nobody did CPR. Here's the thing. People can record things anyway. People can write stuff anyway, but medically speaking, if you can't physically see signs of somebody's got indentations inside their chest because somebody was trying to resuscitate them, then they are gone. When they are gone is what I'm trying to say. If they can't be, there's going to be some bruising because somebody was pushing, because how you have to think about it, when you are doing compressions, you have to have your hand like this, and you have to have the ball of your palm towards their chest, and you have to push in increments. and you have to keep counting, and you have to go in towards the rhythm as if you're going like the rhythm of your heart. You know what I'm saying? Because I am a person who works in that kind of field, I know what I'm talking about. You got to keep your hand like this and keep going. In the CPR book, you never stop compressions, because when you do, you can cause that person to go back either in cardiac arrest, maybe, allegedly, I'm not sure, I have to read more. You could cause them to go into AFib, however you put it. You can kill them doing stuff like that, because it's bad enough they already got the pressure. Now all of a sudden you stop. She tells Oprah she stopped. She stopped. She stopped. She stopped. She stopped. She told him, give it up. You don't tell everybody, and then you tell everybody to stay calm. First of all, the woman that's supposed to be downstairs at a party is now dead. All the celebrities that are here to celebrate stuff is now dead. You're gonna basically tell me that he was the only person that did something? Then you got the ringleader, her mentor, that said, I'm gonna get paid anyway. No, we're not gonna do that. The show must go on. If a person you decided to sign because she had the most beautiful, because here's the thing, when he was in his youth, he couldn't stop talking about Whitney Houston to the point where it almost looked disgusting, because he was in his 30s, she was 19. Ain't no telling, allegedly, if he was messing over her, because you know it was the 80s, didn't nobody care. You're a black woman, that's a white guy, you basically was hand to the wolves. Basically. And so you're talking about how awesome she is. She had a talent. She's this and that and the third, and she's all these things. But she's found dead upstairs. Anybody else that was her manager, mentor, would have stopped the situation and said, wait, something's not right. He was so concerned about the party. I get he was upset. I would be upset too and devastated. I'm just now learning about this. But you can't sit there and tell me that you didn't know. First of all, if somebody dies, and there was a bloody purge, how can you clean up stuff that fast? I don't even care how fast you clean it up. You can't. Blood still stains. I mean, and Nick would have had to have some help, because if it had to be more than at least 7 people, because one person can't, especially if they're nervous, within a 30-minute interval, cannot clean that whole room that fast. He had raffles taking him out of the hotel. He wasn't the only, it wasn't just 2 people, because 2 people couldn't even clean that up in 30-minute intervals. There was a room full of people. And think that you don't know, people were trying to set this situation up. In the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theory, where I think it was like season 2 or something like that, Jazz and Will was talking about something, and he had Bill Cosby cut out, and Will said, Jazz, what happened to the Whitney Houston cutout? And Jazz said, oh, she fell apart in the shower. Now everybody else would have been cracking up, because it was like, yeah, and I cracked up too, because I saw that it was on Nick at Night. I'm a reruns baby, you know what I'm saying? 90s kids are just basically the reruns kids, because come on. The show ended on my birthday, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, if you don't know any better. But here's the thing, you basically have this situation where he said she fell apart in the shower. Now, anybody else would have thought, oh, he was just fantasizing about her and he was doing inappropriate things to the cutout. But the way she died, how did she fall apart in the shower? The fact that Lady Gaga was wearing funeral clothes a year before she passed away, and then the manager of Lady Gaga at the time, his wife's career skyrockets. Come on, that's not a coincidence. The fact that even when she died, Leola Brown said Bobby Christina is not safe. Then you, and I'm not trying to be funny, but if you're going to sit there and say that it's Nick, that it's Pat, that it's all of them, you being her auntie would have went and get her. period. I don't care what the situation is. You can't tell me that you're going to let your niece suffer like that. All of you guys were involved. Why do you think everybody was doing documentaries? Why do you think Robin Crawford did her thing? Because she didn't want to be sued into that stuff. She was around her too. She didn't want her name being tarnished since she was around it. But does it make it any better that she was like 19 and Whitney was 16 when they were messing around at the time, allegedly? So you're messing with a minor? She didn't even know about sexuality. That's what I'm saying. That's the biggest issue I have with some people. There's nothing wrong with who you are, but if you know that the person you're messing with is a minor, why would you encourage that kind of lifestyle if they don't even know who they are? Then you're going to sit there and say that her mom was a bad mother, but you're only saying that because you were mad at the fact that y'all couldn't do what y'all really wanted to do, because she wasn't going to let her daughter be with you. She probably loved you and wanted you, but even if she accepted her, people said she was too aggressive with her. So she wasn't safe with nobody. That's the thing. If the people said that she wasn't even safe around Robin at the time, because there was quote unquote times where they saw her yelling allegedly at her. Okay. So then you got Ray J, who's dating her. Allegedly, all of a sudden they stopped dating because of stuff. Leola's making accusations and alleged situations about the fact that he was doing this and that, and he was around. But if he wasn't there, you can't say that. My other situation is, if you have an entourage and you're famous, why isn't the security on call? You have 20, like she said, two 12-hour shifts. Within 30 minutes, she passes away. Then all of a sudden, Pat talks about she walks slowly. If somebody is dead, you run to them. What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, I walk slowly. I was telling everybody to calm down. You're a suspect like everybody else. How I know? Because when Bobby Christina passed away, then the aunties started arguing. Then and the thing about it is, the father wants to act like he wasn't involved in anything. I would believe that if his son didn't pass away just last year. You see what I'm saying? I would understand that. And I'm not saying that he's a suspect. I'm just saying, if you love your kids come before your work. That's all I'm saying. He had so many children. I don't understand what's wrong with him. To be honest with you, I would keep all of my kids around. You just don't let them leave. But he was the husband. So of course they're going to come after him. It doesn't matter how many times they said Bobby didn't do this. You're the husband. In our community and in faith, you are responsible for your family, period. Regardless. Yeah, Whitney knew she had a problem. Whitney knew she had a problem, but she needed somebody to help her. Y'all didn't want her to get help. Just like on Houston on our own, y'all saw that Bobby Christina was drinking and acting a fool. If you knew she had help, instead of having cameras in her face, you would have put her in an institution a real institution that can get her help. First of all, if you're on hospice, unless you have doctor's notes that you're not supposed to give her any food, you're still supposed to feed her something until her final days. If the Nigerian doctor said, well, there was some superfood that can bring her to full strength, she wouldn't have been able to sing and dance. First of all, let's be honest. I'm not being disrespectful. Bobby Christina could not sing. I'm not even going to lie to you, because even if she could sing, she done smoked her vocal cords away. I'm just saying, the girl could dance now. She's a good dancer, but I don't think she could sing like that. And the only reason why I said that is because she didn't smoke. And you couldn't tell. If she didn't smoke and she had practice, she probably would have been a good singer. But the reason why they were pushing for her to sing is because, first of all, she's got two parents that are in the in the music industry that can sing. You got Bobby Brown, who was an R&B icon back in the 80s and 90s, and then you got the Whitney Houston as your mom. That's pressure. So everybody's trying to get her in the music scene. That's probably not what she wanted to do. She wanted to act. But the problem is that all the people that was around her and basically used her. Then you got to look at the text messages she sent her cousin. She didn't have a state. She didn't have She wasn't entitled to her money, because if she was, she would have been able to. I find it interesting how all of a sudden Leola said, I could have had signed if I did this. Why didn't you? If you knew that something was wrong, why didn't you sign to go keep her and go get her? Why didn't you just go get her, period? On Houston's on her own, the thing that doesn't make any sense, she tried to call you. Not you, but her dad. And my thing about it is, if you're dumb enough to put a TV in front of her showing how crazy she's looking, and everybody else is sober, how come that was the same thing with B and Bobby Brown? Because basically in 2005, that's exactly how they viewed Whitney. That's why everybody was like, something's wrong with Whitney. So something's wrong with Whitney. They didn't like when they got together. I don't blame them, but my thing about it is that if that's what she loves, that's what she loves. But my thing about it is, if she was in love with Robin, y'all wasn't gonna be with it anyway, because that's what y'all was allegedly saying. And another thing, I don't think it's fair for anybody to tell anybody about somebody's sexuality. First of all, if you want to sit around and cheat, I don't know much about their marriage, but if you're going to sit around and cheat on people, I am so sorry that you feel like you have the right to tell everybody her sexuality. Just because she was good at something doesn't make her any less of a human, or make her a bad singer all of a sudden because you want to talk about her sexuality. Leave her personal business out of it. Listen, I also stop and think that Pat sold almost all her stuff. I'm talking about her passport, her credit card, her driver's license. Who does stuff like that? Nobody in their right. Those are stuff that you keep with your family members. I get like her clothes and maybe her first Grammy or something like that. But her credit card, her driver's license, why would you put that on auction? Her Bible, that stuff should be passed down to her kid. Oh, I forgot, she's dead, right? The same girl that was calling her cousin on her father's side, hey, I need help, I feel unsafe. Nobody called you. And then Leola said that she said, no, I'm not the same person that was on Houston on her own that didn't go get her. But my thing, if Leola's making all these accusations, how come she didn't allege accusations? How come she didn't? My husband said I couldn't get involved. Really? Or is it because you didn't want to be a part of the process? Because I find it interesting how everybody wants to just blame it on Nick. I could believe it if it was Nick. But out of nowhere, last year, literally last year, before the year even turned out on New Year's, he passes away? No, come on. I don't believe that. I believe that they set him up because I believe that he was stupid. He was already on drugs. He was always wasted with them anyway. If he really did do it, now I believe that he probably had a part of it, but if he really did do it, he wouldn't have been, first of all, able to clean up that room that fast. If he really did do it, he wouldn't have been able to hide Bobby Christina that quick if he really did do all those things by himself. Because if he did all those things by himself, he would have been arrested right then on the spot. Because when you do something and you have evidence, I don't care if you wipe it off or not, they would have still seen it on the floor. But this is how crooked they are. Everybody wants to just blame Nick for this. No, because I guarantee you his mom is going to say something. Watch, mark my words. She is going to say something and say, look, I know my son. I know he does a lot of stuff, but this is not that. Because you can't say, basically, I'm sorry, my nose is killing me. You can't sit there and say that it was just Nick. Because if it was just Nick, why is he dead? I'm sorry, I don't think I heard you correctly, right? Right? If he was the ultimate killer, right? If he was the ultimate killer, right? If he was the ultimate killer, why would he be dead? Because that boy knew too much. And they didn't want him to be free and tell the real truth. It is evident. Nobody, first of all, you're in jail. How do you find pills to hurt yourself? Yeah, you can get Tylenol, but the most you can have is painkillers. You can't have anything unless you go to the hospital. And unless a lieutenant smuggles it or something like that. Maybe that's a possibility. even if that didn't happen, you can't just automatically do stuff. People do visit folks, like all those movies where people come into that and they think that they got a visitor and it's really somebody beating on them, like that movie where that girl was supposed to go to college and she was wrongfully charged for a death that she didn't know because she was walking in the wrong place at the wrong time and touched the body, so they thought she was guilty. And the guy, and she was pregnant, the officer that came in there, she thought her parents came to visit her, and it was really the officer that smacked her in the face. Y'all remember the story? Y'all remember the movie? I forgot what it's called, but it's a sad story. But that's why you don't walk in weird places. If you want to exercise, you exercise at home. If you know you only weigh a certain amount of pounds, you need to be walking with somebody else. Have your husband around, have some friends around. Stop doing that. It's not safe for women to be by themselves, period. But I said all this to say, and this is going to be another episode because I have so much more to say, because I feel like people keep trying to lie about the situation. There is more to the story. You cannot just say one person is responsible for 2 deaths the same way, because why would he hurt himself? First of all, if it was a real situation, they would have arrested him sooner. They would have arrested him sooner if he did all of this, if he really did do it. How come that room was completely clean? How come? Because I don't believe they didn't even report anybody in the room. That's what the autopsy report said. Nobody was even in the room yet until later. So somebody else was in there until the person was in there. The only people who were there, and at the time Nick wasn't even in there. Allegedly is what they're saying. Nick was with Bobby Christina because they were still together. The family was on the 3rd floor. That's what I'm trying to keep telling everybody. They were on the 3rd floor. Everybody was gone. Nick, they saw him run. But my thing about it is, first of all, and look at this, even if he did, look how tall Whitney Houston is compared to Nick Gordon. Nick Gordon is very short. Whitney is not short at all. Without heels, she looks like she could at least be 5'10", right? If there was not a bodyguard there and Nick was the person that she was fighting, because he's stronger than her, right? Because she's skinny. The way that she had blows to the chest, you had to have a multiple person, because first of all, a person can't just keep hitting you over and over. You had to have somebody, and she had scars on her back, so it had to be somebody from the back and from the front to take her down, because Whitney is tall. It got to be at least 5'9" or 5'10". She probably doesn't weigh that much, but and then she's from New Jersey, so she probably fought before. Then let's not forget the night before the situation, the night before February 11th, a man that was up under her, the man that was under her on the 3rd floor noticed water cascading into his room. So this had to have happened the night before, and she might not have been dead for 11 hours. She might have been dead a whole day before, because nobody just, unless they drowned somebody else. And then Bobby Christina had a drowning, so they were really trying to kill, right, the daughter. Here's another situation. There was a video that I watched where it was talking about, there was a Halloween party at the Davis house. Everybody was dressed up. Upstairs, a person needed to go to the bathroom. Upstairs, there was a dummy face down in the bathtub the same way they found Whitney Houston. This was 3 years before she passed at a Halloween party. But we're going to sit here at the so-called person that invented her, that said she was the most beautiful person. Here we're on Gordy's music show, and here with us is 19-year-old Whitney Houston singing The Greatest Love of All. Really? But you're gonna have a dummy that looks just like her face down in your bathtub the same way y'all found her February 11th, 2012. That is not a coincidence. The fact that Lady Gaga's career skyrocketed, The fact that Tamar Braxton stuff skyrocketed. The fact that even when Aaliyah died, the Braxton skyrocketed. The Destiny's Child skyrocketed. You gotta look at everybody who's connected. Everybody who says that they love that person, they don't really love that person. It's an agreement. They come together and make sure that they are safe. Like I said, this stuff is alleged. Maybe I'm fishing, but I don't think that this is a coincidence. I cannot believe anybody saying that Nick did X, Y, and Z, because if he did it, there would have still been evidence. First of all, he would have had a hard time carrying her. Second of all, because she's so tall. Third of all, he would have needed help. Who was all with him? The entourage. Who was the entourage? Her so-called family that was supposed to be going to Neiman Marcus or the store to get her some cupcakes. The same family that did Houston's on Her Own 3 months after she died. Leola Brown talking about that she didn't do this and she wanted to be there. Don't blame Bobby. Of course you want to save your brother's neck because don't nobody want to sit there and involve him. But guess what? That was the ex-husband and the father of that person. We're not going to sit here and just blame one man for something that somebody planned 3 years before she died. And that's what I'm saying. You don't believe me? All you have to type up is her name and the I word that I can't say that means the light, sacrifice. And it comes up with all of these videos. And if I was wrong, I wouldn't be telling you the stuff that I've seen and observed. And from what I observed, I believe it was the council that didn't like the fact that she was telling the truth, because on Diane Sawyer, she told the truth about she had to break up stuff with Clive. You don't get a chance to say that stuff and live to tell the story. Why do you think Prince is gone? He got on Travis Smiley and did the same thing. He exposed the chemtrails that basically are not killing mosquitoes. It's just basically a chemical to get rid of people of color. That's what he said. Oh my God, like, I can't believe people are so stupid that they're gonna believe anything. If you're gonna believe something, you have to get to the root. It's just like Black history. You can't just believe somebody tells you we're slaves, right? You gotta get to the root of it. We're not just slaves. Somebody had to do something to sell us. We didn't just get on a boat and agree. Somebody from the country had to sell us for something, for ammunition, and right? It's the same thing with this situation. Stay on for more for part 2 on another episode of SMS News Channel. And I'll see you next time. You have a good day. Bye.